The sheriff stood in my driveway, scratching his head, while two animal control officers held catch poles aimed at my guide dog, Murphy. I sat on the porch of my lake cabin, trembling and trying to keep my voice steady. "He's a service dog," I told them. "He's not dangerous. He's trained. He's all I've got." But the HOA president, Karen Witherspoon, was pointing wildly. "That beast barked at me. He lunged. I feared for my life," she shrieked. Murphy didn't flinch. He sat beside me, tail swaying slowly, his harness clearly marked, "Guide dog, do not pet." One of the officers spoke into his radio, "Might need backup if the dog resists." I felt my throat tighten. "You don't understand. I'm blind. That dog is my eyes." Karen folded her arms. "Blind or not, your animal is a menace. This is a private HOA neighborhood. No vicious animals allowed, and that cabin of yours sticks out like a sore thumb." That's when the officer gave the order that shattered me inside. "We're taking the dog," Murphy growled for the first time. What happened next made Karen scream louder, and that's where everything changed. "My name is Jonathan Miller. I'm 41, a former firefighter. I lost my sight in an explosion while rescuing two kids from a burning house. After that, I moved to my grandfather's old lake cabin in Missouri, a quiet, weathered place, just outside the boundaries of a neighborhood called Spruce Pines. It wasn't part of the HOA, but close enough to be noticed. Murphy, my golden retriever, was my certified guide dog, trained to help me navigate the world I could no longer see. He stayed by my side every day while I restored the cabin, board by board. He fetched my medicine, helped me walk rough trails, and alerted me when anyone stepped foot on the property. When I finally moved in full-time, the trouble began. At first, it was small things, a stack of HOA newsletters dumped on my porch, even though I wasn't a member. Then a note, "Paint your deck the right color or expect a visit." Well, I thought it was a prank until I met her. Karen Witherspoon, blonde bob haircut, sunglasses like twin daggers, and a voice that carried authority she hadn't earned. She lived on the hill and acted like she ran the entire lakeside. One day, while walking Murphy to get my mail, she stopped me. "You shouldn't have that dog off leash. He's in a harness," I said. "I'm blind. He's my guide dog," she sniffed. Well, he startled me. "You people need to keep things under control." A few days later, I found a red sticker slapped on my cabin door. "Animal nuisance under investigation." Murphy had never barked without cause. I reported it to the sheriff. He shrugged. "They can't enforce HOA rules on known HOA land. Ignore." It then came 37 citations in 1 week. Karen hand-delivered them. Improper fencing, overgrown grass, non-standard mailbox, dangerous animal on premises. I laughed. I didn't even have a mailbox, but I wasn't laughing long. Someone was watching. Me. Close enough to notice details, I set up motion alarms around the cabin. Murphy started sleeping with his ears perked. One night, he growled, low and constant. I reached the door, cane in hand. Then I smelled cheap perfume and smoke. "Karen, what are you doing here?" I called through the door. "You need to control that beast. I filed a formal complaint. He's my guide dog. Disability doesn't mean you can endanger the rest of us." The next morning, Murphy's leash had been cut. I found it dangling from the porch rail. Now it wasn't just harassment. It was danger. I installed cameras. My friend Tara, a vet, and one of the few people who respected Murphy, helped me set them up. Then came the call from animal control. Complaints about a vicious, unregistered animal attacking residents. I showed them Murphy's papers. They said they'd return to inspect. They came back with the sheriff and Karen. That's the moment. You saw at the start, Murphy.com, Karen screaming. The officers moving in. Then Murphy lunged, not at the officers, but toward the woods behind Karen. He barked and growled like he'd found evil itself. Out stepped a teenage boy, hood up, slingshot in hand, and Murphy's cut leash hanging from his belt. At Karen, she paid me to scare the blind guy's dog. The air went silent. Karen's mouth dropped. You little liar. The sheriff raised a hand. Let him talk. My name's Dylan. I live 2 streets down. She gave me $20 to sneak on his land and mess with the dog. Karen exploded. He's making this up. Tara pulled out her phone. I have trail cam footage. If he came through the woods, it'll be on there. Karen turned pale. They watched the video. There he was, sneaking through trees, cutting the leash. Karen's voice whispering, do it quick. Don't be seen. Karen lunged at Tara. An officer blocked her. You tried to have us seize a service dog with fake complaints. That's felony territory, the officer said. Karen stammered. He doesn't belong here. That cabin doesn't match our community. He doesn't attend HOA meetings. I'm not in your HOA, I said. This land's been in my family since before Spruce Pines existed. The sheriff nodded. Survey confirms. You've been trespassing, I added, and harassing me. Murphy leaned into me. I came here to heal, I said. I lost my sight saving lives. I didn't expect to be bullied. The officers radioed for backup. Karen was escorted away. As she left, she shouted, this isn't over. You'll regret bringing that dog here. That night, I finally slept. But peace didn't last. The next morning, while I stood on the dock sipping coffee, Murphy barked and ran. I heard a splash, tires screeching, a crash. I dropped the mug. Murphy, Tara, then a voice. Karen, maybe. You should have left. I froze. Karen, you're trespassing. No response. Murphy barked again. Then a man's voice. You said he was harmless. He's blind. That's harmless. I backed toward the cabin, Murphy growled. Murphy, heel. No response. Something was wrong. I hit the emergency alarm by the door, which pinged Tara and the sheriff. You're making this harder, Karen yelled. Just sign over the land. That cabin's worthless. You came here to threaten me? That's a felony. You can't even see us. Then I heard Murphy whimper and a chain dragging. Leave him alone, I screamed. I stepped off the porch. My cane found nothing. Then I was hit, knocked to the ground. You're done, the man said. We're taking the dog and suing you for the bite. He didn't bite anyone, Karen yelled. He attacked us. Sirens getting closer. Let's go, Karen yelled. Not without the dog, but the sirens. We're nearly here. Tires spun. They fled. I crawled, scraped knees, until I touched Murphy's harness. He licked my face. You're okay, I whispered. Tara arrived. What happened? Karen and a man tried to take Murphy. The sheriff arrived. We're tracking them. You're safe. Tara picked something up near the dock. A deed. This says the cabin was sold to the HOA yesterday, she said. That's impossible. The signature isn't yours. The notary's fake. The sheriff held the paper to the light. I'll confirm with the county. If this is filed, we'll know. Why go this far lakefront property? Power. I rubbed Murphy's ears. He flinched. My blood boiled. She hadn't just tried to take my dog. She tried to take my life. And I wasn't letting her get away with it. HOA Karen calls animal control on my lake cabin for my dangerous guide dog. It started with a knock on the door that morning. Murphy was curled up beside the hearth, resting after our usual walk through the woods behind the cabin. The sky was overcast and the lake still and quiet. I opened the door, and there stood a uniformed officer from Animal Control, clipboard in hand, and a firm look on his face. Sir, he said, we received a report of a dangerous animal on the property. Specifically, a large, unregistered dog exhibiting aggressive behavior. I stood there, stunned. Murphy was beside me in full harness tail, still thumping quietly. Against the floor, he tilted his head at the officer, but did not move or bark. He's my guide dog, I said slowly. He's trained, certified, and calm. Who reported this? The officer checked his clipboard. A Karen Witherspoon from the Spruce Pines HOA, he said. She claims the dog growled at children and residents and acted in a threatening manner. I'm required to inspect and verify the complaint. I felt my chest tighten. Karen had already tried to file false paperwork to steal my land. Now she was going after Murphy. "You're welcome to look around," I said, keeping my voice even, "but Murphy isn't a pet. He's federally protected under the ADA." The officer nodded, though he looked skeptical. "I'm just following procedure," he said. "If I find no issue, you'll receive no citation." As he walked through the cabin, I stood by the window, my hands gripping the edge of the table. Tara came in just then. "What's going on?" she asked, eyeing the stranger. Karen called animal control. I said she's trying to brand Murphy dangerous. Tara's jaw clenched. "That woman has no bottom, does she?" The officer came back into the room. "I see no signs of aggression," he said. "The dog is well behaved, the property clean and secure. I'll file a report stating no action is needed." I nodded, but inside I was furious. Later that afternoon, I received an email, a formal letter from the HOA, signed by Karen herself. It stated that due to multiple complaints about my unregistered aggressive animal, the HOA board would be voting to ban dogs over 50 pounds from all lakefront properties within their jurisdiction. They were changing the rules to push Murphy out. I read the letter twice, my hands shaking. Murphy sat beside me, quiet as ever, head on my foot. "She's trying to make us leave," I said aloud. "She doesn't care about safety. She's afraid of losing control." Tara read the letter over my shoulder. "This isn't just harassment," she said. "This is discrimination. We need to act." That night, we drafted a response. Tara helped me contact a disability rights lawyer. We included Murphy's certification, medical necessity, documentation, and a formal notice that any action against him would violate federal law. The next morning, we hand-delivered it to the HOA office. Clara, the same woman who had processed the fake deed, gave us a cold smile, but accepted the papers. Murphy stood beside me still and composed his harness clean and shining. As we walked out, I heard Clara mutter under her breath, "They're not going to let this go." Neither were we. A few days later, a notice appeared on the community bulletin board. HOA emergency meeting to address pet policy concerns. Closed. 2 non-members. I was not invited, but I showed up anyway. Tara beside me, Murphy guiding me into the community center with slow, steady steps. Gasps and murmurs followed us through the room. "He brought the dog," someone whispered. Karen stood at the front, her face painted in concern. "This meeting is for the safety of our residents," she began. "Several have expressed fear regarding uncontrolled animals in our community. One in particular has raised repeated issues." She glanced at me, as if daring me to respond. I am blind," I said calmly. "This dog is not a pet. He is my mobility, my safety, my independence. He is trained by federal standards, and his presence is not optional." Karen's lips thinned. "We're not saying you can't have support animals," she said, "but when they scare residents or create disturbances, we have to consider the greater good." "You mean your comfort?" Tara snapped. "Not safety. There's never been a single documented incident with Murphy. You're weaponizing the HOA to push him out because he doesn't fit your aesthetic." A few murmurs of agreement echoed in the back. Then I said, "If this board passes a policy targeting service animals, it opens itself to a federal lawsuit." "You know that, right?" Karen faltered, but only for a moment. "We're simply discussing community concerns," she said quickly, but the damage was done. The meeting broke up early. No vote was taken. The next day, I found another notice taped to my door, an anonymous warning. Asterisk, "You and your dog aren't welcome here. Leave while you still can." I handed it to the sheriff, who was already helping with the arson case. He photographed it and added it to the growing file. "She's getting desperate," he said, "but that makes her dangerous." We went public that night. Tara recorded a video. She showed Murphy's paperwork, his calm demeanor, his training. She explained how the HOA had tried to rewrite rules to force us out. By morning, it had over 50,000 views. Support poured in. Other disabled individuals shared similar stories. News stations called. A local journalist interviewed us on the porch, Murphy sitting beside me, quiet and loyal. The public saw the truth. Karen didn't back down, though. The HOA filed an official violation notice, claimed Murphy barked at a neighbor who had approached the property. There was no video, no statement, just more hearsay. We filed a counter complaint with the State Housing Authority. Eliza, our lawyer, added it to the ongoing civil case. "This is textbook discrimination," she said. "They're trying to build a case without evidence, hoping you'll break before court." I wouldn't. Murphy stayed beside me every step of the way. At the grocery store, at town hall, at the rebuilt cabin. One afternoon, I stood on the repaired porch and watched him run through the yard, tail wagging free and joyful. He wasn't just my guide. He was my friend, my protector. When the court date came, I wore my best jacket. Murphy walked beside me, head high. The judge listened carefully as we laid it all out. It's the false reports, the HOA's shifting rules, the anonymous threats. When Murphy walked up to the bench and sat quietly at my side, the judge smiled. "This dog," he said, "is no danger to anyone. The real danger here is unchecked power and prejudice, masquerading as policy." The ruling came down hard. Murphy was declared legally protected from all HOA action. Karen received a restraining order. The HOA was fined and placed under state review. That night, we celebrated. Tara brought root beer floats. Murphy got a new chew toy. And I sat back on the porch and breathed deeply. We had one. Not just for us, but for everyone who had ever been pushed aside for being different. And as Murphy curled up beside me, I whispered, "They called you dangerous boy." But they were wrong. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." Andy wagged his tail once before drifting off to sleep. Here's a revised version of your story, titled, "HOA Karen Calls Animal Control on My Lake. Cabin for my dangerous guide dog, asterisk, 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 1,200 plus words. No commas or strike throws as requested, asterisk. It started with a knock on the front door, just after sunrise. Murphy, my guide dog, was curled up next to the fireplace while I finished my coffee. The lake outside was calm, the air cool, and the cabin quiet. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a man in a gray uniform holding a clipboard with the bold words "Animal Control" printed across his jacket. He looked serious. "Are you Jonathan Miller?" he asked. "Yes," I said, slowly glancing down at Murphy, who had walked up and stood quietly by my side. "We received a report," he continued, "of a dangerous animal on your property, a large dog, possibly aggressive. I need to inspect the premises." I blinked, trying to understand what I had just heard. "That dog," I said, pointing to Murphy, "is a guide dog. He is trained, federally certified, and more polite than most people." "Who called this in?" The officer glanced at the clipboard. "Karen Witherspoon. Said you had a large, unregistered animal that barked at children and growled at neighbors." I felt my pulse spike. Of course, it was Karen, the head of the Spruce Pines HOA. She had already tried to file false paperwork to claim my land. Now she was coming after Murphy. "You can take a look," I said, "but Murphy has never bitten anyone or even growled without reason. He is here to help me navigate, not cause problems." The officer nodded, but kept his professional tone. "I need to see that he is licensed, vaccinated, and under control at all times. That includes observing his behavior." I let him in. Murphy followed me to the living room, where he sat perfectly still, eyes on me, waiting for the next command. The officer observed silently for a moment, then wrote something on his clipboard. "Everything appears in order," he said eventually. "The dog is calm, the environment secure. I will file this as a false report." "Thank you," I said, but it was hard to mean it. I was angry. This was not just a misunderstanding, it was harassment. Later that day, I received an official notice from the HOA. It claimed that due to multiple complaints about dangerous dogs, the board would be voting to ban any dog over 50 pounds from lakefront properties. The notice did not name Murphy, but it did not need to. It was clear what they were trying to do. They could not remove me, so they were going after my service dog instead. Murphy was not just a dog to me, he was my freedom, my partner, my eyes. Tara came by later that evening. She read the letter, and her face darkened. "This is disgusting," she said. "They know Murphy is your guide dog. This is targeted and deliberate." I nodded, but said nothing. "You need to fight this," she added. "I will help." That night, we gathered everything. Murphy's guide dog certification documents his medical vet records, my ADA protection forms, and the paperwork showing I was legally blind and required a service animal. We scanned everything and sent copies to a disability rights attorney. We also sent a formal cease and desist letter to the HOA, warning them that any effort to remove a federally protected guide dog would result in legal action. A few days later, we showed up at the HOA Community Center, where a special meeting was being held. Karen stood at the front of the room, smiling politely, but her eyes narrowed when she saw Murphy walk in at my side. "This is a closed meeting," she said. "I have the right to attend," I answered. "You are discussing a rule that affects my civil rights. I will not be silent." There was some murmuring in the crowd. Karen cleared her throat. "This is a matter of community safety," she said. "We have had reports of dogs barking, snapping, and causing concern. The HOA must consider the needs of families with small children." "Murphy has never bitten anyone," I said. "He has never barked without cause. He is trained, federally certified, and protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Your complaints are personal, not legal." Karen smiled tightly. "We are just doing our duty to keep our neighborhood safe. This is not about you." But it was. Tara stepped forward and began to read a statement from our attorney. It outlined the law, the protections for guide animals, and the legal consequences of HOA discrimination. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Murphy remained calm, silent. His head rested against my leg. The vote was postponed, but the attacks did not stop. A day later, I found another notice pinned to my door. It said that my dog had been seen chasing a neighbor's child. No names, no dates, no witnesses. Just another attempt to paint Murphy as dangerous. I filed a complaint with the State Housing Board. Tara documented everything: photos, videos, dates, and times. The real blow came when Tara discovered something else. Karen had listed my property on a real estate site. The dog was just the first step. Discredit me, remove Murphy, push me out, and take over the land. We went public. Tara helped me post a video. We told our story about the false deed, the arson attempt, the fraudulent votes, and now the animal control call. Murphy lay beside me in the video, calm and steady, just as he always was. Within 2 days, the video had over 100,000 views. Disability advocates, civil rights groups, animal lovers, veterans with service dogs. People were outraged. Karen tried to defend herself in the HOA group. She claimed the video was misleading, that I had exaggerated, that the dog had snapped at her once, but the truth was already out. The sheriff visited again. He had audio recordings of Karen speaking with a developer about forcing me off the land. "Burn the porch if you have to," she had said. "Just make sure people blame the dog." The sheriff added that to the investigation. At the next HOA meeting, Karen tried to present another vote, but she was interrupted by our lawyer, who handed the board a cease and desist order. Then the sheriff stepped forward and served Karen with a restraining order. The meeting ended with no vote. A week later, we stood in court, our documents in hand. Murphy sat beside me as the judge reviewed every piece of evidence: the forged deed, the threats, the lies. The judge ruled in our favor. The HOA was fined and placed under state review. Karen was removed from her position and charged with fraud. Murphy was declared a federally protected guide dog with no restrictions. As we walked out of the courthouse, Tara smiled. They came for the wrong dog, she said. That night, we sat on the porch, Murphy resting his head on my foot once more. I ran a hand over his soft fur and whispered, "They tried to break us, boy, but we are still here, you and me." And he wagged his tail like he understood every word, every word.